Do you remember the moment when a parent hit you for the first time? I remember. And I believe you remember too. That moment, that feeling of betrayal and pain, remains etched in our memory forever. But do you know what actually happened in your brain at that moment? What happened to your trust? To your sense of security? To your understanding of love? Today, I'll reveal something that might forever change your perspective on raising children. Something every parent should know. Something that has left many parents speechless. Introduction to the problem. Before I continue, I want to be completely clear, this is not a video meant to judge. This is a video that aims to educate, inform, and perhaps change the future of our children. Our relationship with our parents shapes our lives more than we can imagine. Especially the relationship with our mother. From an evolutionary perspective, a mother is our first contact with the world, our first source of security, our first love. When that relationship becomes a source of fear and pain, something happens that changes the entire architecture of a child's brain. Mikhail Labkovsky, one of Russia's most prominent psychologists with more than 40 years of experience, explained this phenomenon in a way that left many parents in shock. Every time a parent raises a hand against a child, they don't realize they're risking not just momentary pain, but laying the foundation for a whole range of long-term consequences that can follow the child throughout their entire life. A punishment that lasts a few moments can create scars that last for decades. Psychological background. When faced with a threat, our body reacts in a very specific way. This is what psychologists call the fight or flight response. Imagine walking through a forest and suddenly seeing a bear. What happens? Your body floods with stress hormones. Adrenaline. Cortisol. The body prepares either for combat or escape. Breathing becomes faster, the heart beats stronger, muscles tense. This is a normal, healthy reaction that has helped us survive as a species through thousands of years of evolution. But what happens when the source of danger is someone who should be a source of security? What happens when the bear is actually the mother? Labkovsky explained something fascinating. For this reason, these hormones are not released into the blood when children are in the presence of parents, especially the mother. This is how nature protects the developing child's body from additional strain. Sounds logical, doesn't it? When a mother is beside her child, the child should feel safe. Their body doesn't need a fight or flight reaction. But what if the mother becomes a source of fear? Think about this more deeply. In nature, over millions of years of evolution, has developed mechanisms that assume the mother will be a safe haven for the child. These mechanisms are so deeply embedded in our neurological system that when this assumption is violated, the entire system experiences confusion. The paradox of violence. Here's what happens, and this is the part that has left many parents in shock. If the parent themselves becomes a source of stress, then the child will not perceive that violence as danger. In other words, there's no stress, to them it's normal, everything is fine, this is how it should be because it comes from the parent. Let me explain this in another way. When an adult who is not a parent threatens or hurts a child, the child's body reacts appropriately. Stress hormones are released, the child recognizes the danger and reacts. But when a parent, especially the mother, becomes a source of pain, the child's brain experiences a short circuit. On one hand, this is the person who represents safety. On the other hand, this same person is inflicting pain. How to resolve this paradox? The child's brain resolves it in the most logical way it can. If the mother, the source of security, inflicts pain, then pain must be normal. Pain must be okay. Pain must be part of love. And here begins a problem that can last a lifetime. One of the biggest challenges that psychologists and therapists face is helping clients recognize the abnormality of violent patterns they internalized as children. When something is experienced as normal during formative years, it takes enormous self-awareness and personal work to recognize and change that pattern. Long-term consequences. What do you think a child who believes from an early age that violence and aggression are normal will grow up to be? Labkovsky says there are two main scenarios. The child will become either an aggressor or a victim. Let me explain this in more detail. First, the child may internalize the violence and become a victim. They learn that it's normal for others to hurt them. That they deserve pain. That love is often mixed with pain. This can lead to a range of problems later in life: toxic relationships, low self-esteem, depression, anxiety. Research shows that individuals who experienced physical punishment in childhood are more likely to suffer from mental health problems. According to a study published in the Journal of Family Psychology, children who were physically punished have a greater tendency to develop anxiety disorders, depression, and behavioral problems. On the other hand, the child may become an aggressor. They learn that violence is an acceptable way to solve problems. That it's okay to hurt someone you love. That physical dominance is a way to establish authority. This can also lead to a range of problems: violent behavior, issues with anger management, difficulties in maintaining healthy relationships. Research conducted at the University of Michigan showed that children who were regularly physically punished are more likely to exhibit aggressive behavior later in life. This creates a vicious cycle of violence that can be passed from generation to generation. There is also a third, often overlooked scenario: a child who develops a complex inner world in which both the aggressor and the victim coexist simultaneously. These children may develop a divided inner life, where part of them repeats violent patterns, while another part suffers. Such an internal conflict can lead to deep psychological problems, including borderline personality disorder and other complex traumas. Neurobiological perspective. Let me explain what happens at the neurobiological level. A child's brain is incredibly plastic. It constantly develops and shapes based on experiences. When a child experiences repetitive traumatic experiences, such as physical punishment, it can literally change the structure of their brain. Studies using brain imaging technologies have shown that children who have experienced continuous stress and trauma have changes in several key areas of the brain. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing emotions, especially fear, can become larger and hyperreactive. This means the child may have heightened emotional reactions to stress later in life. The hippocampus, an area crucial for memory and learning, can shrink. This can affect the child's ability to learn and remember information. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and emotion regulation, can also be affected. This can result in difficulties controlling impulses and making reasonable decisions. These neurobiological changes are not just theoretical. They have real, tangible consequences for the child's life and later as an adult. Dr. Bruce Perry, a leading expert in childhood trauma, explains that the brain develops hierarchically, from the simplest parts responsible for breathing and heartbeat to the most complex parts responsible for abstract thinking and self-regulation. When a child experiences repeated trauma, the development of higher brain functions may be compromised because resources are redirected to survival. Neurobiological research also shows that early patterns of neural connections formed in childhood can be extremely stable and resistant to changes in adulthood. This doesn't mean change isn't possible, but it explains why it's sometimes so hard to overcome patterns learned in early childhood. Understanding attachment. One of the most important aspects of early development is the formation of secure attachment. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby, explains how the relationship between a child and their primary caregiver affects all future relationships that child will develop. When a parent is a source of both comfort and terror, the child develops what's called disorganized attachment. This is the most problematic type of attachment, as the child cannot develop a coherent strategy for relationships with others. A child with disorganized attachment often has difficulties regulating their own emotions, shows unpredictable patterns of behavior, and has difficulties in forming stable, trusting relationships. Research has shown that disorganized attachment is strongly linked to the development of psychopathology later in life, including borderline personality, post-traumatic stress disorder, and difficulties in relationships. Physical punishment directly threatens a child's ability to develop secure attachment, because the person who should be a safe base becomes a source of fear and confusion. Philosophical perspective. From a philosophical perspective, the physical punishment of children raises several profound ethical questions. Immanuel Kant, one of the most influential philosophers in history, spoke of the categorical imperative, the idea that we should act only according to that maxim whereby we can, at the same time, will that it should become a universal law. If we apply this principle to physical punishment, we must ask ourselves, do we want to live in a world where it's acceptable for the stronger to physically punish the weaker? Where violence is an acceptable response to frustration or disobedience? Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a philosopher known for his work on education, believed that children are inherently good and that society, including parents, can corrupt them. In his work Emile, or On Education, he advocates for an education that respects the natural development of the child and avoids physical punishment. Childhood has its own way of seeing, thinking, and feeling, wrote Rousseau. Nothing is less reasonable than to substitute our ways for theirs. These philosophical considerations are not just academic. They invite us to reflect on the fundamental values we want to pass on to our children and the kind of society we want to create. Philosopher Martin Buber spoke of two fundamental relationships, I-thou and I-it. In an I-thou relationship, the other is experienced as a complete person with their own integrity and dignity. In an I-it relationship, the other is treated as an object. Physical punishment reduces the child to an object, to an it, instead of respecting them as a thou, as a complete human being with their own feelings, thoughts, and rights. The question every parent must ask themselves is, what kind of relationship do I want to have with my child? A relationship of subject to object, or a relationship of person to person? Development of emotional competencies. One of the most important aspects of a child's development is learning how to recognize, name, express, and regulate emotions. This process, known as the development of emotional intelligence, is crucial for success in many aspects of life. Physical punishment does not help a child develop these skills. On the contrary, it can seriously undermine this process in several ways. First, physical punishment sends the message that strong emotions are dangerous and should be suppressed, not understood. Second, it models inadequate ways of dealing with frustration and anger, showing the child that violence is an acceptable response to difficult emotions. Third, it can create an environment of fear in which the child does not feel the safety necessary to explore and understand their emotions. Daniel Goleman, author of Emotional Intelligence, emphasizes that the ability to recognize and manage emotions is often more important for success in life than traditional cognitive skills. Parents who use physical punishment instead of helping the child understand and regulate their emotions deprive them of the opportunity to develop these key life skills. Impact on moral development. One of the goals of parenting is to raise a child with a strong moral compass. However, physical punishment can actually hinder the development of true moral reasoning. Psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg identified 6 stages of moral development. In the lowest stages, children avoid certain behaviors only out of fear of punishment. In higher stages, they internalize moral principles and act right because they believe it's right, not out of fear of consequences. Physical punishment keeps children in the lower stages of moral development. They learn to avoid certain behaviors not because they understand why those behaviors are problematic, but simply to avoid pain. For the development of true moral reasoning, children need explanation, dialogue, and the opportunity to think about the consequences of their actions for others. They need to understand why some behaviors are harmful or unfair, not just that they will be punished if they perform them. Research shows that children whose parents use inductive explanation instead of physical punishment show higher levels of empathy, moral understanding, and prosocial behavior. Building self-confidence and autonomy. The healthy development of a child includes gradually developing autonomy and self-confidence. A child needs to believe in their abilities and develop a sense of control over their life. Physical punishment can seriously undermine this process. It sends the child several harmful messages. That their body and physical autonomy are something that can be violated by authority. That their value depends on their obedience. That they have no control over their environment. Psychologist Erik Erikson identified several psychosocial stages of development. During the early stage of autonomy, roughly from 1 to 3 years, children naturally strive for independence and self-expression. Excessive control and physical punishment during this stage can lead to feelings of shame and doubt in one's own abilities. Similarly, during the stage of initiative, from 3 to 6 years, children want to explore and take initiative. Physical punishment can discourage this natural tendency, creating a sense of guilt when the child tries to act independently. Instead of building obedience through fear, it's more effective to nurture self-confidence and autonomy through positive reinforcement, following the child's interests, and giving appropriate choices. Children who develop a healthy sense of autonomy and self-confidence are more likely to make good decisions because they believe in their ability to do so. Practical advice for positive parenting. Now that we understand why physical punishment can be harmful, let's consider alternatives. Here are some practical tips for positive parenting. Understanding developmental stages ***. Many challenges in parenting arise from a mismatch between expectations and the child's developmental stage. A 2-year-old who says no is not showing disrespect, they are exploring their autonomy. A teenager who challenges rules is not trying to be disobedient, they are developing their identity. Understanding what is normal for a particular age can reduce frustration and improve your approach. Preventive strategies ***. Many conflicts can be avoided with a little planning. If you know your child becomes irritable when hungry, make sure they have healthy snacks. If you know transitions are difficult, give warnings in advance. If you know your child has difficulty in the store, involve them in planning the shopping. Active listening ***. When your child expresses strong emotions or negative behaviors, it's often because they have a need they can't articulate. Instead of reacting to the behavior, try to understand what's underneath it. You seem really frustrated. Can you tell me what's bothering you? This type of empathetic listening not only helps resolve the current situation but also teaches the child that their emotions are important and that they can express them in healthy ways. Setting clear boundaries with respect ***. Children need boundaries to feel safe. However, the way these boundaries are set and enforced makes a big difference. Boundaries set with respect: we cannot allow hitting because it hurts people, instead of with threats, stop hitting or you'll get a spanking. Teach children the reasons behind the rules and encourage self-regulation. Focusing on solutions, not punishments ***. When problems arise, involve the child in finding solutions. You spilled juice. What do you think? How could we clean this up? This approach teaches children responsibility and problem-solving skills, instead of just punishing them for mistakes. Modeling desired behavior ***. Children learn by observing. If you want your child to control their temper, you must control yours. If you want them to be kind and compassionate, you must be kind and compassionate, including towards them. Nurturing connection ***. A strong bond between parent and child is the foundation for effective parenting. Set aside time daily to connect with your child through play, conversation, or shared activities. When children feel safe and loved, they are more likely to cooperate and respect boundaries. Parental self-regulation ***. Perhaps the most important aspect of positive parenting is the parent's ability to regulate their own emotions. Recognize your triggers and develop strategies for managing your own stress and frustration. Sometimes this means taking a break, breathing deeply, or seeking support. Specific techniques for different age groups. For young children, from 1 to 3 years, ***. Redirection: young children have short attention spans. Instead of punishing them for touching something they shouldn't, redirect their attention to something they can touch. Simple explanations: use simple, concrete sentences. Hot instead of a long explanation about the dangers of the stove. Routines: young children respond well to predictability. Establish consistent routines for meals, sleep, and transition times. Choices within a limited scope: offer 2 acceptable choices to give the child a sense of control. Do you want the blue cup or the red cup? For preschool children, from 3 to 5 years, ***. Natural and logical consequences: if a child refuses to wear a jacket, allow them to experience the cold, if it's safe. If they scatter toys, the logical consequence is to help clean up or temporarily lose access to those toys. Visual reminders: use pictures or diagrams to help the child remember routines or rules. Role play: use play to practice difficult situations or learn social skills. Stories and metaphors: use stories to teach important lessons in a way the child can understand. For school-age children from 6 to 12 years, ***. Family meetings involve children in conversations about family rules and expectations. Natural consequences allow children to experience the consequences of their choices, provided they are safe. If they don't do their homework, let them face the teacher's reaction. Behavior contracts. For specific challenges, consider creating a written contract with clear expectations and consequences. Teaching problem-solving skills. Help children develop steps for solving their own problems, define the problem, devise possible solutions, predict consequences, choose a solution, and evaluate how it went. For teenagers, from 13 to 19 years, ***. Negotiation. Be open to discussing rules and boundaries, acknowledging their growing need for autonomy. Natural consequences allow teenagers to experience the consequences of their choices, provided they are safe. Focus on solutions. Instead of punishing for mistakes, focus on finding solutions and learning from the experience. Mentorship instead of control. Shift from the role of authority to the role of advisor or mentor who provides guidance but respects the teenager's growing independence. Cultural and historical perspective. It's important to note that attitudes toward the physical punishment of children vary culturally and historically. In many societies, the physical punishment of children was, and in some cases still is, widely accepted as a normal part of upbringing. Spare the rod, spoil the child, and similar proverbs can be found in many cultures. However, in recent decades, we have witnessed a significant shift in understanding child development and effective parenting practices. Sweden was the first country to ban all forms of physical punishment of children back in 1979. Since then, more than 60 countries have followed their example. These changes are not accidental. They reflect a growing understanding of the negative consequences of physical punishment and the recognition of children as bearers of rights, not just as passive recipients of parental authority. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, the most widely ratified international human rights agreement in history, explicitly protects children from all forms of physical and mental violence. This shift in understanding and legislation represents an important step forward in protecting the well-being of children. Anthropological research also shows that many traditional cultures practiced parenting based on closeness, connection, and community, not on physical discipline. For example, numerous indigenous cultures raise children through storytelling, modeling, and community involvement, not through physical punishment. This reminds us that traditional parenting did not necessarily include physical punishment, and that there are ancient wisdoms about raising children that align with contemporary scientific knowledge. How to break the cycle. If you grew up in an environment where physical punishment was the norm, and now you're struggling not to repeat those patterns with your own children, you're not alone. Breaking the intergenerational cycle of violence requires awareness, effort, and support, but it's absolutely possible. Here are some steps that can help. Recognize your triggers ***. What brings you to the point where you feel the urge to physically punish your child? Is it a particular behavior? Are there certain circumstances, like fatigue or stress? Awareness of these triggers is the first step towards changing your reaction. Develop a plan for difficult moments ***. What will you do when you feel you're losing control? Perhaps it's deep breathing, counting to 10, or leaving the situation for a few minutes to calm down. Have a plan ready before you need it. Seek support ***. Changing deeply ingrained patterns of behavior is difficult on its own. Seek support from a partner, friends, parenting groups, or a therapist. Sometimes just talking about the challenges you're facing is enough to reduce the pressure. Practice self-compassion ***. Be gentle with yourself when you make mistakes. Change is a process, not an event. If you find yourself reacting in ways you want to change, acknowledge the mistake, apologize to your child, learn from the experience, and move on. Educate yourself ***. Learning about child development and effective parenting strategies can give you the tools and perspective needed to change your approach. There are numerous books, courses, and online resources available for parents who want to learn alternatives to physical punishment. Work through your own childhood experiences ***. If you experienced physical punishment as a child, you may have unresolved emotions related to those experiences. Working with a therapist can help you process these experiences and break their influence on your parenting. Build a healthy relationship with your child ***. Focus on building a positive relationship with your child through quality time, active listening, and showing love and respect. A strong bond will not only reduce the need for discipline but will also make your discipline more effective when needed. Building resilience in children. One of the most important goals of parenting is raising resilient children, children who can overcome challenges, recover from failure, and adapt to changes. Physical punishment does not build resilience; instead, it can undermine a child's ability to cope with difficulties. Here are some ways you can help your child develop resilience. Allow them to experience frustration ***. Although it's difficult to watch your child struggle, taking over all their problems doesn't help them develop problem-solving skills. Allow them to experience appropriate levels of frustration and support them as they find solutions. Teach them problem-solving skills ***. Instead of solving problems for your child, teach them how to solve problems themselves. What do you think might help in this situation? Model resilience ***. Children learn by observing how you deal with challenges. Showing your own coping skills and recovery from failure can be a powerful lesson. Nurture a positive outlook ***. Help children see challenges as temporary and specific, not as permanent and all-encompassing. You didn't succeed this time, but that doesn't mean you'll never succeed. Encourage healthy relationships ***. Research shows that one of the most important factors of resilience is having at least one reliable, supportive adult in the child's life. Be that person for your child. Encourage independence ***. Allow children to take age-appropriate responsibility. This builds confidence and autonomy. These strategies not only help children develop resilience but also reduce the need for discipline altogether. When children have the skills to manage their emotions and solve problems, they are more likely to behave in ways that don't require parental intervention. Research conclusion. I want to conclude this part with an overview of what science tells us about the physical punishment of children. An extensive meta-analysis published in The Lancet analyzed 50 years of research on physical punishment. The conclusion was clear: there is no evidence of any positive effects of physical punishment on children. On the contrary, research consistently shows an association with an increased risk of negative outcomes. Dr. Elizabeth Gershoff, a leading researcher in this field, conducted a meta-analysis that included more than 160,000 children. Her findings show that physical punishment is associated with increased aggression, antisocial behavior, mental health problems, negative relationships with parents, reduced moral internalization, increased risk for child abuse in adulthood, cognitive difficulties. These findings are not isolated. They are supported by decades of research from different countries, cultures, and contexts. More recent research uses advanced statistical methods to distinguish correlation from causation. These studies show that physical punishment causes, not just correlates with, increased behavioral problems and mental health issues. Research published in the journal Developmental Psychology used data from twin studies to control for genetic factors. This research showed that even when controlling for genetic factors, physical punishment predicts increased behavioral problems. It's especially important to note that these harmful consequences occur even when physical punishment is relatively mild and part of an otherwise caring family environment. The science is clear: physical punishment is not only ineffective in achieving the long-term goals of parenting, but it is also potentially harmful to the child's development. Final synthesis: parenting for the future. As we conclude our discussion about the consequences of physical punishment and alternatives, I would like to offer a broader perspective on what it means to raise children for the future. The world is changing faster than ever before. The children we are raising today will live in a world we can barely imagine, a world with new technologies, new challenges, and new possibilities. In that world, skills such as creativity, adaptability, emotional intelligence, and critical thinking will be more important than ever before. These skills do not develop through obedience based on fear. They develop through relationships based on trust, through the freedom to explore and learn from mistakes, and through modeling by adults who themselves demonstrate these skills. Parenting based on physical punishment belongs to the past, a world of hierarchical structures where obedience to authorities was a key skill. But that world is rapidly disappearing. The best gift we can give our children is not strict discipline that teaches them to follow rules without question. The best gift is parenting that empowers them to be thinking, feeling, confident human beings capable of navigating the complexity of the future with integrity and wisdom. This doesn't mean parenting without boundaries or expectations. On the contrary, it means setting boundaries with respect, communicating expectations with clarity and love, and helping children develop inner discipline that will serve them throughout their lives. As parents, we are not raising children just for today. We are raising them for tomorrow. The way we raise them shapes not only their individual lives, but also the society they will create together. As Mikhail Labkovsky said, to beat a child means to break their faith in life. And we don't want children who have lost faith in life. We want children full of hope, courage, and compassion, children who can create a better world than the one we created for them. We've reached the end of this video, but I hope this is just the beginning of the conversation. Mikhail Labkovsky concludes his thought with words worth repeating: beating a child means breaking their faith in life. Imagine that. Breaking a child's faith in life. Is there a greater responsibility than preserving and nurturing that faith? If you're a parent, grandparent, teacher, or anyone who has influence in a child's life, I hope you'll reflect on what we've discussed today. If you're someone who experienced physical punishment in childhood, I hope this video has given you some perspective and perhaps the beginning of a path toward healing. And if you're someone who struggles with the challenges of parenting and sometimes resorts to physical punishment, I hope you'll know that you're not alone and that there are resources and support available to you. Change isn't easy, but it's possible. And it's worth the effort. Because at stake is nothing less than the future of our children and the kind of society we want to create. We can all make a difference, every day, through every interaction with a child. It doesn't matter if you're a parent trying to change your approaches, a teacher striving to create a safe learning environment, or simply an adult who wants to be a positive role model for children around you. Every action, every word, every moment of compassion and understanding can help break the cycle of violence and create a world where all children are safe, loved, and respected. As Maya Angelou said, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better." I hope this video has helped us all know a little better. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you liked it, please share it with others who might benefit from it. And as always, feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Until the next video, take care of yourselves and take care of our children. Remember, every child deserves to grow up in a world without violence, and we are the ones who can create that world, one relationship, one family, one community at a time. Together we can break the cycle and create a new generation who will know that love and respect, not fear and pain, build the strongest foundations for life.